Chelsea 0, Manchester City 2 in the Community Shield. A rough start for Chelsea with an early goal by Manchester City, finding our feet in the game throughout the first half, but a totally Man City dominated second half as Chelsea are actually lucky to only concede 2. A manager going into his third season with his team was victorious over the manager going into his third week in charge of his team. Getting Sarri's system into the system of the players will take a while, but that is no surprise. To find out everything about the game in detail, including my thoughts on individual players, make sure you watch all of today's review. Hello there guys and welcome back to 100% Chelsea for my review of the Chelsea versus Manchester City game in the Community Shield as we lost the game 2-0. I mean, in my preview I predicted, I thought that we were going to lose. I didn't really think that we would win, would beat Manchester City, and we didn't. It's not the end of the world, but it did show up, you know, that we aren't anywhere near good enough as them right now. Things might change, you know, Sarri's only into his third week in charge, and of course that's completely different to what Guardiola is doing with Man City right now. It will take time, but obviously today it wasn't anywhere near good enough. Of course we will also cover the friendly against Lyon on Tuesday, and then the start to the Premier League against Huddersfield away from home next Saturday, with of course then Arsenal the first game at Stamford Bridge. So if you don't want to miss out on any of that, do make sure you subscribe to 100% Chelsea if you haven't already, and also don't forget to click the notification bell button and choose to be notified about all uploads. I mean, if we could hit 800 likes, that would be absolutely amazing. The more the better, of course, so make sure you smash the like button down below. That'd be class. But now actually getting into the game and starting off with the lineup. And of course we went with a 4-3-3, and it was pretty much like I expected and predicted in the preview. It was Willy Caballero in goal, a back four of Cesar Azpilicueta and Marcos Alonso, the fullbacks, Antonio Rudiger and David Luiz as the two centre-backs, a midfield three of Jorginho, Fabregas, who was fit in time to play, so it was him and not Danny Drinkwater next to Ross Barkley, with then Hudson Odoi and Pedro as the two wingers and Alvaro Morata starting up front. What was interesting was that none of Emerson, Bakayoko and Loftus-Cheek actually made the bench for the game. And City went with a very strong lineup themselves, with the likes of Riyad Mahrez, Aguero, Walker, Fernandinho, Bernardo Silva and Leroy Sané as well, all starting. And getting into the game, City were certainly the better team in the first 10 minutes of the game. They created a few chances, nothing extremely dangerous, but they did create chances. The Chelsea players, on the other hand, though, seemed a bit nervous to start with actually. A lot of misunderstandings between them early on, and generally our play wasn't anywhere near quick enough for the style of play that we're trying to use basically. Our players were holding on to the ball for way too long in a lot of instances. Of course it was also forced by Manchester City's very effective pressing and our players not being fully used to passing their way out of tight situations. But that will come with time. Like, that's the whole Sarri thing, and that takes time. But in the 12th minute, Manchester City and Aguero made it 1-0. Laporte's pass from defence took out a whole midfield basically. Then Phil Foden dragged the ball forward, squared it to Aguero at the edge of the box. Rudiger committed himself to trying to predict Aguero's movement. Got it wrong, then wasn't anywhere near close enough to Aguero, who then ended up taking a precise shot that found the bottom right corner. No chance of saving that for Willy Caballero. And it was actually interesting because it looked like Jorginho actually tried to push the team forward and up the pitch as City played it out from the back. Him and the midfield did push up kind of, but the defence didn't, and obviously then left a huge gap in between, which City exploited extremely well in that scenario. After that, the game went pretty quiet actually for a good while. City were still the better team, while both teams tried to play a passing and attacking style of football, but we struggled to actually get the ball into the final third before we lost the ball. Do you know, like, it was very tricky for us. And we still had way too many misplaced passes by almost every player, to be honest. One pass by Jorginho, which he put way too little pace on, went straight to Man City, from where Sané almost ended up making it 2-0 at the time, but Caballero actually came out of his goal very nicely to stop the German. And it actually took us 25 minutes to get our first touch inside Man City's box and to get our first shot away. And that wasn't even on target. And that happened when Alvaro Morata was played in down the left-hand side. He cut inside into the box, but fired the shot quite a bit wide and over as well. It was then Hudson Odoi who got our first shot on target of the game with just over half an hour played from outside the box after the ball found him on his left-hand side over Morata and Barkley, I think. Hudson Odoi went past Kyle Walker, had a shot from outside the box, but basically hit it straight at the keeper. Although that didn't mean that Bravo didn't have any problems with it, but none of our players couldn't pounce on Bravo, basically letting the ball spill a little bit. After creating those two chances, which weren't huge chances, but they were chances nonetheless, we finally found our feet into the game a lot better. Made it a more even game. Rather, you know, it was an even game at that point, I thought. Dangerous moments on both sides, good passing, good movement, much better, but still not creating any big chances really. And that was half time really. We were 1-0 down. We had a rough start to the game. City and Aguero scoring a very good early goal. And although we certainly could have defended it better, it was still a good goal. But we found our feet into the game as the first half went on, made it an even game, but still lacking big chances like I just said. And of course goals, like that's the main thing. Like I mean, you can't score goals if you don't have any chances, basically, but still. But it wasn't a fairly even game overall in the first half. I mean, we had a bit more off the ball, actually, with 55%, although most of that was in our own half, especially in the early parts of the game, and never actually got out of our own half properly. And we had 1 shot on goal and 2 shots off target, while they had 2 shots on the goal and 1 off goal. Going into the second half, and it all started to go wrong. Like, Manchester City were all over us in the second half. In the 50th minute, Aguero was literally 1-on-1 with Caballero after our defence got done by completely by a chip ball from midfield. But somehow Aguero didn't score. Like I said, he was 1-on-1 with the keeper. Caballero actually did well to stand his ground and forced Aguero to shoot from a very tight angle and only managed to get it into the outside side netting. You know, should have really done better there. Could have squared it as well. Caballero did well, but, you know, if Aguero handled the situation better, he really should have scored. And like I said, City definitely had the better start into the second half, creating a fair few chances, all of which were actually very dangerous as well. And it was obvious to see that will still take some time to fully grow into Sarri's system. The way the defence and the midfield are supposed to move comparatively to each other, that is not happening yet, and that will take time for the players to get used to. And City capitalised on a strong start again, as Aguero made it 2-0 with 57 minutes played. Hudson Odoi lost the ball in the final third, no blame on him, you know, he tried something, lost the ball, it happens. City broke quickly, but basically 5 against the 4 of David Luiz, Rudiger, Azpilicueta and Jorginho. Bernardo Silva played the perfect pass at the perfect exact moment for Aguero, who then slotted it in from close range. David Luiz didn't exactly look good there, moving at the exact wrong moment, kind of similar to Rudiger for the first goal. But, you know, it was what it was. Straight after that goal, we started to make some substitutions as Willian and Danny Drinkwater come on for Hudson Odoi and Fabregas. Of course, Fabregas wasn't at 100% fitness ahead of the game. He was a bit of a doubt for the game and looked to be in some discomfort when coming off as well. Before a few minutes later, Tammy Abraham came on to replace Alvaro Morata. And City just stayed on top in the second half, basically, creating more chances, worrying our defence constantly. Well, we basically hadn't created anything in the second half, you know, for a good while, except for a soft effort by Pedro that he ended up dragging wide anyway. Then Moses replaced Pedro in the 79th minute. There were actually 6 substitutions allowed in, you know, each team in the Community Shield. And that was, of course, our 4th substitution. Caballero, to be fair to him, made multiple good saves in the second half to keep the score at 2-0 rather than conceding quite a few more. And it took us until the 88th minute to create our first big chance of the second half as Barkley was played through down on the right wing, basically. Maybe waited a tiny bit too long to cross the ball in for Abraham, who got to Barkley's cross, who eventually did cross it. You know, he got to the ball, but basically at the same time as goalkeeper Bravo did, and the ball just, you know, basically bounced into the air, bounced around. Moses' effort to pounce on that loose ball was deflected out for a corner then as well. And, you know, we couldn't even get that over the line. I mean, I'm not blaming anyone here. Maybe Barkley could have crossed it a bit quicker and made things a lot simpler for Abraham. But that was basically the only real chance we created in the second half. And that, you know, speaks volumes. And before full time, Caballero still made another 2 very good saves, with Rudiger helping him out on the last one in injury time as well, to make the scoreline look better than especially the second half was. And like I said, that was then full time at Chelsea 0. Manchester City 2, and I've mentioned it, you know, throughout the second half. It was poor. City had more of the ball in the end with 53% of the ball, I think. 9 shots on target themselves, while also having 9 shots off target, while we only managed to have 2 shots on goal with 4 off target. But like I touched upon earlier, it was very obvious to see that the defence and midfield don't act cohesively as a union yet, and that's important. The whole team still needs time to get Sarri's system into their system, basically. I mean, of course, they've only been working with Sarri for a mere 20 days, while Guardiola is starting his 3rd season in charge of Manchester City and constantly adding a few good players here and there as well. And let's not hide from the fact as well that City do have a much better squad than we do, especially when we don't have N'Golo Kante and Eden Hazard. We're nowhere near them, like, quality-wise. I've also seen a lot of people criticise our defence, David Luiz especially. And I'm not saying we were good defensively, I'm not saying David Luiz was great defensively, not at all. But you've got to understand that it's not just about defending as individuals, but defending as a team, as a cohesive team. And Sarri's system of doing so is completely different to anything the players are used to, basically. Not every back 4 is the same, you know, not every 4-3-3 is the same even. And a lot of our players, especially once they get tired, kind of fall back into old habit and not moving like Sarri would want them to, more falling into the Conte style of play, especially when we're off the ball. Talking about players that did well today, the 2 that I would pick out for that are Caballero and especially Hudson Odoi, were the ones that actually looked good. Hudson Odoi wasn't like amazing, but whenever we did anything dangerous going forward, when he was on the pitch, the attack ran over him. And as soon as he came off, we basically didn't create anything until, you know, the Abraham chance very late on. You could argue that Ross Barkley did a decent job, but I just feel like there's no end product. Like, he used his body well in some moments, but then he just plays an easy pass. I'm not saying you can never play an easy pass, but there's just no drive forward. Then he makes a run, but then there's just no end product to it. And, like, you can still do that. You can still improve on that, I think. You know, him as well. It takes time to work on the Sarri system, basically. But he Probably was a bit better than a lot of others, but still I wouldn't say that Barkley was particularly good. Jorginho didn't have a great game today at all. Quite a lot of misplaced passes and mistakes by him. Morata wasn't seen much, which I put down to him and his not exactly great movement today, but mainly put that down to us not managing to get past City's press, basically, to actually get into the final third and find Alvaro Morata. And all the other players were anywhere from poor to average, in all honesty. Today I thought, although I might be forgetting about one or two right now, if I did, please excuse that. Either way, of course I wanted to win. I'm sure the team and Sarri wanted to win as well. But like I said in the preview, I didn't think that we would. And I was proved right. We have a long way to go still, and I said it a few weeks back already. The first 1 or 2 months of the season will be tricky for us. Changing from Conte to Sarri, changing from Conte's system to Sarri's system is completely different and so much more extreme than changing from Mourinho to Conte. Because, okay, they used different formations, but the system is kind of similar. Both pragmatic, both defensive mostly, and that's not that different. But what Sarri does is so different to what we've been used to. It takes time. But we move on. We lost the Community Shield. It is what it is. The next friend is against Lyon on Tuesday, of course. Hopefully seeing Eden Hazard, Kante and all the others returning from the World Cup back in that as well. And then it's time to start the Premier League away at Huddersfield next Saturday. Should definitely win that. There will be more content coming out about that, obviously throughout the week. But yeah, that's really, for me, leave me all of your thoughts on the game down in the comment section below. Did any players impress you? Of course, probably a lot of you would say Hudson Odoi. Anyone else who disappointed you the most? Let me know down in the comment section below. Like I said in the beginning, let's see whether we can hit 800 likes or more on this video. That would be absolutely amazing. So smash the like button down below. I and all of us would massively appreciate that. Of course, don't forget to check out my social media, which is Last1507 on both Instagram and Twitter. As you can see over here, and also the links to them are both down in the description below. So if you could follow me there, that'd be absolute class. And obviously, this is YouTube. If you haven't already, do make sure you subscribe to 100% Chelsea. And also don't forget to click the notification bell button and choose to be notified about all uploads so you don't miss any of our future videos, basically. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and I'll see you next time.